Welcome to HBCU Her Voice, a place where we celebrate the powerful voices and stories of remarkable women from historically Black colleges and universities. I'm your host, Greater Washington, a proud HBCU graduate myself. I'm thrilled to bring you this platform dedicated to amplifying the voice of our community. We dive into inspiring stories of resilience, success, and the incredible impact these women are making in the world. From trailblazing entrepreneurs to innovative leaders, we bring you the stories that matter, showcasing how HBCU experiences shape paths and fuel passions. We'll explore challenges, victories, and wisdom. Whether you're an HBCU alum, a student, faculty member, supporter, or simply someone who believes in the power of diverse voices, we are so glad to have you. So listen up as we share insights, celebrate achievements, and uplift our community. Together, we can inspire the next generation of leaders and ensure our voices are heard loud and clear. A grand welcome to HBCU Her Voice. And we are back on the HBCU Her Voice podcast. It's no secret. It's one of my favorite places to be. And when I tell you my guest for today, we already had our pre-show. We know about some hurdles and everything she took to be here today. I'm just going to say it's going to be a good one. So you got to be ready for this one. But I'm your fabulous host, Greater Washington, streaming in the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. And you know the drill. She's going to come to the stage, tells us her name, where she's streaming from, which HBCU she's repping, and jump right into that story. Without any further waiting time, here's my fabulous guest for today.
Hello. Thank you so much, Shanasia. I appreciate it. I am Nora Jacques, and I am repping Howard University, HU, you know, the real HU. But I'm super excited to be here. It is an honor to share my story today. Howard University is the Mecca, it's the capstone, and it's one of the places that is near and dear to my heart. So I am a native of Washington, D.C., so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But let me just start with just how I grew up and where I came from. So when I first started out, I was adopted at 2 weeks old. My birth mother was a native Washingtonian. She lived in D.C. until the day she passed away last year, not too long ago. But she was a native Washingtonian. I still have family in D.C., but I was adopted. So I was adopted. I was 2 weeks old. My sister and I were both adopted together. She was in foster care when my adoptive mother got a call, and they said, guess what? Nora needs a home. And my adoptive mother, with the huge heart that she has, she opened her home to my sister and I. And I lived in Woodbridge, Virginia. I lived in Fort Washington, Maryland, and throughout what they call the DMV. I know some DC folks don't like that term, but I am a citizen of the DMV, so I can tell you it exists. Okay. But I really had just an amazing time growing up with my family. My dad was a preacher, and my dad preached every Sunday, and Tuesdays and Thursdays we had Bible study, and he was a student of the word. He was a scholar, but it was in those Sundays sitting in the pews with my sister and my friends that I fell in love with the word. I fell in love with the power of the word to inspire people. I fell in love with the power of the word to change people's lives. And from there, I began to write on a regular basis. My mother, my adoptive mother, I call her mom, she taught me how to read. I was 3 years old when I was reading, and she taught me how to read. She taught me writing at a very young age, and I enjoyed reading and writing at a very young age, and I enjoyed storytelling. And I fell in love with the way that words can change and transform someone's life. So I was writing stories and plays and poems at a young age. And I literally, when I decided to go to Howard, I was like, well, I may study biology or I may study journalism. So I'm going to go to Howard and I'm going to study biology. That was basically my decision. I got accepted into Howard University. And when I went to Howard, I wilded all the way out. Like I went buck wild, y'all. Let me tell you, I didn't know what was happening to me. But what I didn't realize is that I was following through some of the exact same patterns that my birth mother, my biological mother, had experienced in her childhood and in her adolescence. What I didn't realize is that while she carried me in her womb as a preteen and as a teenager, because, I was always inside of her until she had me. While she carried me in her womb, she had experienced her own trauma. She had experienced her own addiction. She had experienced sexual abuse. So from the time she was 6 years old until the time she was 18 years old and she left her parents' house, she was abused by her father. And I didn't realize that. I didn't know what she had went through. I didn't know that she still wanted me, even up until the day that I was put up for adoption. I didn't know until later on in my life that my birth father was actually a correctional officer and that she was in prison when she had me, when they conceived me. She was actually in prison. I didn't realize that those were the things that I had experienced while I was in her womb as she was coming up. But one thing that she lived out while she was in prison is she read the Bible to me every day in prison, in a jail cell. And when she had me, and my birth father did not show up, she realized there's something that I have to do. So the child care, the social workers came in and they basically gave her a choice. And at that point, she decided to do what she thought was best. And even some of that was a little bit of coercion, and times were a little different back then. But she never wanted to give me up. And I didn't realize that. And I dealt with rejection. I dealt with low confidence for so many years until I grew up and I talked to her. So I got a chance to know my birth mother from the time I was 8 years old. I was 8 years old. I was a preteen, and we visited every now and then. She would come to my parents' church, and we visited every now and then. And I got to know who she was. She was beautiful. She was amazing. I actually have a picture of her on my desk right here. This is my birth mother. Her name is Brenda. And I got to know who she was. I got to know what her experiences were. I got to know what she went through. And I actually, as I learned more about who she was, I learned more about who I was. I saw some resemblances. I saw similarities in the choices that she made growing up and the choices that I had made. So as I learned those stories and as I embraced who she was, I decided, let me live my life a little differently. Let me break through some of these cycles, some of these curses, so that I can be free, so that my children, my daughters don't have to go through the same thing. So while I experienced addiction and while I experienced abuse, I made a choice, around 20 years old, I was just about to graduate. I made a choice that I wasn't going to live this way any longer. And I began to turn my life around, which is around the time that I met my husband. And we decided to come together. We started a business together and we got married. We have about 5 children now. My oldest is 14. My youngest is 3. And we started a digital marketing consultancy where we help people tell their stories and where we help people really amplify their voice and to enhance visibility in their businesses. But again, it goes back to my story and being able to share and tell people about what has happened in my life, and also just help people share their stories as well. Thank you, Shanadra.
You are welcome. And I told you and shared with this, what a story of resilience. And I tell people on this podcast, I am like new ears. So, you've probably
Yes.
told the story several times or something. So it just kind of flows out. So when I hear it and I'm digesting it, I'm like, this is courage. This is wisdom. This is a triumph, right? I get to give that. This is why the space was created. And I say I give roses and give them more abundantly because it means a lot for me out of my soul to say that you've walked the place and you're looking here as a woman who, has exhibited a lot of different or had to experience a lot of different things that don't draw a lot of parallels to many people probably that were in your circle. Let me ask you this. So, of course, you were starting to be reintroduced to your mother around 8. When did those kind of difficult conversations start to come? Like, of course, when I say difficult, then mommy has to tell the truth about what happened. And there probably was comfort and difficulty trying to process and digest. Walk us into that. And then one of the things that Nora and I captured that we didn't get to capture here in this introduction is that Nora also has a brother that she has not met ever.
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that, and perhaps kind of just briefly, because this is Nora's story, kind of
Sure.
like why he didn't get to join the bunch, and then also to maybe the feelings of wondering, where's my brother?
Sure. So when I first started talking to my birth mother about my journey and about her journey, I was actually in graduate school. So I was studying as a journalist in a digital story. I was in the journalism and digital storytelling program at American University. And one of the things that I aimed to do was to just learn more about who she was, learn about the district where she grew up. She actually grew up in Southeast. So I was probably about around 30 years old when I first talked to her, and I went to her and I asked her because from her perspective, my birth mother dealt with mental illness. So a lot of the things that she had gone through were actually she was very matter of fact about it. She was like, this is what happened. I actually still have a recording on my phone. A voice is very powerful. I'll probably be in tears if I played it. But she actually shared with me, what she went through. From 6 years old, she was abused. She left home when she was 18. My biological brother, I believe his name is either Julius or Julian. I think it's Julian. She was in an abusive relationship with his father, and his father threw, I think she said, a machete or an axe towards her head. And she ran and she never came back, and he kept the baby. So Julian was 2 years old when he left, when the last time that my birth mother saw my brother. So that's why he was not adopted. I believe he would be maybe 4 or 5 years older than I. So I can't remember the dates. I have them written down somewhere, but I can't exactly remember the dates when he left. But I know he was 2 years old, and he's a few years older than my older sister, which is 2 years older than I am. So yeah, that's the reason why Oriel and I, my sister and I, it was just us that went into the foster care program.
Yeah, those are the questions people lean in. Well, where's the brother? But I leaned in for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That and and walking the journey. So now this transition, okay, like now I'm starting my own family now. And Nora now has 5 kids, and we've transitioned from this particular lifestyle. Now I'm the head of my household, and I got all these different responsibilities. There was something in there when I was kind of researching, and you said I never really felt like I had the time.
Yeah.
My goals. I never felt that. I always felt that I was kind of having to do all this.
100%.
I was working for a smaller company. I kind of had this kind of thing with fear. Walk us through that journey, and how did Nora finally emerge to say, I'm standing on business and I'm going forward with Ethos?
Sure.
Because I have to talk about it from a mindset perspective, because sometimes we feel like our circumstances and where we come from, that's it, and that's the defining factor. And people
100%.
have to hear that, no, I have all these things come. And let me answer, that's the question, but also to want to put a pin here, because it's a very interesting thing that you experience some of the same things that your mother did, and you had never met her.
Listen, it's crazy when you think about it. But what I experienced just growing up, as far as I want to make sure that I say this correctly. So graduating from Howard University, I made a lot of mistakes. I skipped class. I did all the stuff they say don't do. That's what I did. I was like, don't do that. No, I'm going to do it. So I made a lot of mistakes. And when I graduated, I didn't have the confidence. I didn't have, I wasn't graduating, like with honors. I wasn't graduating with the, high GPA. I just barely crawled out. Okay, y'all, let's be real. So even just going through that, when I graduated, I literally told my mother, and sometimes we have to watch the words that we say, but I told my mother, I was like, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And for years, even as an adult, even as a married woman, I just followed what everyone else wanted me to do. And even, growing up, I worked with a smaller organization, and working there, I literally just gave my will over to that person, to the CEO of that company, and allowed them to lead me and to tell me what hours I should work. And they gave me advice. So I didn't know what it was to be my own person. I didn't know what it was to make my own decisions. And I think I've seen that a lot of my friends, and we just have these close bonds with our family where we allow our families to basically make our decisions. And I really struggle because of it, because the real Nora was not there. And it's really only recently, Shanadra, that I have been able to stand in confidence and see, no, actually, I don't like this type of food. Actually, I don't like to dress like that. Actually, this is how I like to wear my hair. So, I mean, I have, under these braids, I have like curls for days. I have curly hair. I never even knew my hair was curly. So that's just one example of how sometimes we can make decisions and go with what everyone else is doing and what everyone else is saying without acknowledging and taking the time to ask ourselves, who am I? What do I want? What is my desire? So when I took a step back and started to ask those questions, it really began to set me apart. And I really dealt with loneliness, to be honest. I dealt with loneliness and still do sometimes. Just trying to be myself and be authentic to who I am, while at the same time surrounding myself with people who honor that. So it is definitely a process. While I was working for other people, I really gave them all my ideas, because when you're working a 9 to 5, that's what you do. You give them your ideas, and it's their idea, and now it's their thing, and they wrote the book and they did the thing, right? So whatever ideas you have, a lot of times it's important. And that's why I'm really big right now on content licensing, because, it's so important to trademark your work. It's so important to copyright and to make sure that you have ownership over the things that you create. But now that once I graduated American University with my master's, I believe that I tell people, something snapped in me when I graduated, because when I graduated, I realized I can do something. And I did graduate with a high GPA. So it built up my confidence, and it helped me to realize, yes, I can do something. Like, I can accomplish my goals. And if you are struggling with confidence or fear, insecurity, one thing that I would advise anybody is to set a goal, set a small goal, and reach that goal. And then your confidence will build. Set another goal, and then reach that goal, and your confidence will build. So that's been the process of building my confidence, and really taking a step back from working on what everyone else wanted me to do, building their businesses, to now I've just launched Ethos Interactive, June 2024. I'm super excited. It's a branding and storytelling agency. But bigger than that, is more so focused on what I want to do. It's focused on telling the stories of communities of colors, telling the stories of people, organizations, companies, nonprofits that are making an impact in the community. So it's social storytelling, it's community storytelling, and it's for impact and not for profit. So I'm super happy. I'm super excited about just launching Ethos, because it's my baby, and even working with my husband, it was a shared partnership, but he was like the head honcho, right? He was the one that was making the calls. He was the one making the decision. His name was on everything. So even just stepping out and saying, okay, let me put something in my name, it gave me more confidence to really speak up and to own my voice and to own what I wanted. And really, to be honest, like, quite frankly, it removed all excuses for, oh, I can't do this because this person, oh, I can't do this because of this limitation. No, when you're an entrepreneur and you work for yourself, you're removing every limitation, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to launch out, and I'm going to bet on me. I'm going to believe in myself and push and do the best that I can. Did that answer your question, Shanadra?
Nora, you gave me more than enough to chew on.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, that definitely answered the question, and thank you for going through that journey. Because lots of times, and I meet you women, you guys are so powerful, and I'm like, they often don't even, remember those strides. Like, they sometimes get so far ahead in their journey, especially with telling other people's stories and journeys.
Okay.
Real talk, because
Yes.
we have a parallel in passion in terms of telling stories of communities of color. Me specifically,
Yes.
I really like to tell women of color stories. Point in case this podcast, right? It's a
for sure, 100%.
So in doing that, and I've even noticed over these last few days, I was like, man, I've just been in here getting the thing done, and then somebody, one of my mentors, was kind of like, tell me something that you're proud of yourself that has fueled your personal story. So it's questions like that keeps me it, right? Even in the work that I'm doing, I know that it's good.
Yes.
So when I hear Nora's story, that's what I get from that, because like Nora has made a lot of different strides, right? You could have been a statistic. You're a miracle. You are a miracle child.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. I honor your parents for taking you in. That's also too not other people's stories that have similar situations with their brothers.
Yes, that's true. That's so true.
But one of the things that also kind of stood out, and I share this, my paternal parents raised me. I did still have very good relationships with my parents. They were just young teenagers when I was born. And, you know, my mom already had another daughter and, you know, eventually had brothers after me. So I lived my entire childhood not in the household with my parents, in the household with my paternal grandparents. So it wasn't the exact same situation. But there became a time, I think, in my life where I needed to know more about my mother's story, like what was going on with that, and, you know, how did this kind of come to be, and then understanding that dynamic. So the reason why I'm walking to say this to our listeners and viewers, that part of understanding that piece of your lineage, it can be transformative for your children. Even if you don't have children, it can be transformative for yourself, because you start to pick away. And
100%.
And you know,
and it was transformative for me.
Yeah, I know.
It was transformative for me because it was the first time I actually looked at someone and saw myself. It was the first time I could look at my birth mother and see, okay, she has this facial expression, or, you know, that's why I respond this way. That's why, you know, this frustrates me. Okay, I see the similarities. But it also, you know, it just helped me to see, you know, just even the areas I didn't want to go in. Okay, Nora, you got to make sure that you don't get too frustrated when it comes to this, because when it's in your family, it hits different. You know what I mean? Like when it's in your family, like is like an issue for you. It's just like how they say, you know, certain illnesses run in your family. So, you know, your family has high blood pressure. Your family has diabetes. But really, it's because the patterns and the habits that your family has had. So I have to be careful, and we all have to be careful. Like, we have to make that intentional decision. We're not going to walk through this. We're not going to continue this journey. We're not going to continue this battle, and especially for my kids, like you said.
Yeah, and that's what really woke me up. And I said, man, you know, I only have one son. He's 7.
Okay.
And I said, no. I said, my son will know my story as a woman. Nobody's gonna have to tap my son on the shoulder and say, "Mommy did this." As far as what he can know and handle for a 7-year-old, he will know about mommy. And that's
I love that. I love that.
You know, you're not gonna have to be guessing around on what this thing is. We definitely will keep it age appropriate, and, you know,
for sure.
Yeah. But we're not playing these games like that. You know, and that's
exactly
the thing. I'm happy that you're in the space of storytelling and even social impact. Because what we don't understand about these stories and these voices, that they really are transformative assets.
Yes.
Transformative assets.
I love that.
Isn't that good? And that's what I feel about that. So I feel the passion in your work. And I told you, I said, we had to go through all these hurdles. It's always the interviews that I need on that day. So when I see all this, we got to do this, I'm like, we're going to do it.
Yes. Okay. We're going to get it done.
It's nothing gonna come between this, because if we got a willing vessel, we're gonna use it, and we're gonna go.
Yes.
Let me say this, Nora. I want to give you an opportunity here, of course, to tell our viewers about this. I mean, you talked about the services, but really where they can find you, and then just talk about, because sometimes you get a little tricky with storytelling. Just kind of tell them how you work with them, how you pull that story out, and really some of those digital assets that you have to offer for someone looking for yours.
Sure. So Ethos Interactive is a branding and storytelling agency. And what we do is we help with brand story, brand identity, and brand culture. And brand culture, let me just start there, because I believe that is one of our differentiators, because a lot of times you work with a storyteller and they want the story. But a lot of times the story will not align with the culture and the values of the organization. So I work with organizations, with nonprofits, with small to medium businesses, and help them tell their stories, but in a way that impacts their community, in a way that empowers their employees, and allows their customers to see, okay, this is the company that I want to work with. This company has the values that align with who I am. But aside from that, we also have scholarships that we have for individuals and for startups, for entrepreneurs, where we will come in, interview that person, conduct a video. So we have what I call an interactive story, where we'll create a video, an article, and some type of web extra or creative element to help tell the story. And that will really bring visibility to that business. But at the same time, it will give them something that they can work with so that they can get grants, or so they can, just go out and share their story with the world. So typically the way that I work is we start with an interview. We start, number one, with the kickoff sessions to just see, are we compatible? Do we like each other? Do we want to work together? And if we do, then from there, what I'll do is I will interview you. And I love to immerse myself in the culture of an organization. So if I'm dealing with a solopreneur, then we're going to spend some time together, maybe an in-person session, maybe something where, we have a couple sessions where we ask different questions. But within an organization, I want to talk to everybody. I want to talk to the customers. I want to talk to your employees. I want to talk to the CEO, the leadership, right? Because the leadership may have one perspective, but the customers or the employees may have a totally different perspective. So in order to get a full spectrum of what the brand story is, of course, we want to go in and we want to talk to everyone and really immerse ourselves in the culture and figure out what is the actual truth. What is this organization? What are the milestones? Who are the key players? And why do you do what you do? So we really help that brand story come alive through social media storytelling. We also do podcasting, audio storytelling. We do visual storytelling with videography, cinematography, and things of that nature. And then we just get down to journalism, right? So I am a trained journalist. My team, we have trained journalists on our team. So we'll work with you in order to tell your story in a way that is ethical and in a way that is professional. That will show up in any media outlet. So if we want to work with media outlets and we want to share your story, maybe put a press release out or an article with a magazine or newspaper, we can help you with that as well. So that's what we do at Ethos Interactive. We really help you enhance your visibility and align your identity to who you are, to your brand culture. So that's a little bit about us. And of course, you can learn more at ethosinteractive.co.
Absolutely amazing. And I do, one of the things in that segment that stood out was really that holistic approach, especially when you're working with a larger company.
Yes.
And everybody on the same page, because you can't have somebody telling one story, somebody telling another one. So yes, please, let's all come together and get the right story for the
listen.
So, okay. Yeah, that definitely buzzed off.
Because I learned that the hard way.
Being in corporate, and I mean, not even at that time, not even being in communication, like being in finance. Yeah. I can remember just getting a project and getting it from 2 or 3 different people.
Yeah.
They're telling me to do 3 different things. I say, now, wait a minute.
Right.
Somebody better choose now, and I mean, tell me what to do, because you're not going to play with my time. Well, how do we do this project, and what do you need? But it is hints on that communication piece. So thanks for sharing that.
100%.
Now, this is part in our podcast, Nora, where we cue to your final thoughts. And I tell the guests, and you'll hear this on every show, if somebody was just to skim across this and say, what should I get out of this? I always tell my guests to give us some good final parting words and really something that captures the essence of Nora.
Sure. So listen, I want you to know that your story matters. What you've been through, your experience matters. You can't whitewash it. You can't sweep it under the rug. All of it matters. All of who you are, your values, the experiences that even the pain, the things that you've been through matter. And as they come alive and as you embrace every part of who you are, every part of who your organization is, then that's when you can truly shine. So I really want to just encourage people to tell your story, to share your story, because your story can set someone free. Your story can inspire someone. Your story can just drive someone to do greater and better and to overcome some of the same things that you have overcome. And maybe you're the one that's going to help them.
I absolutely love it. And that's what we kind of end on here. I always tell the guests, I never leave without telling them that I love them and honor also to their space and presence here. In addition to our viewers that But I always tell them to remember to let their voices shine, because as we talked about, what do I call them? Transformative assets. And you guys got to be able to share that and do that in power. So we want to thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the HBCU Her Voice podcast. We'll be really back in no time with another amazing woman, and we thank you so much.